Good evening, everyone. Yes, good evening, everyone. I see 54 participants. Is that a big number? I mean, is this the number? I thought it were about 30 people.
Sir, the total number of students is 69, so we hope that few more students will be joining soon.
Oh, lovely. Okay, great. So I don't think there is any opportunity or time to go through or get everybody introduced into this.
Yes,
so that's a problem when we have a large gathering. So that is a huge problem. I don't know whether I'm visible. Am I? Okay, fine.
Resume recording button. To activate, press spacebar.
Let me just share my screen. Good evening, everyone. So what I understand is we have participants from across India, right? Akshay?
Yes, sir, that's right. We have people from across India. We have students from different backgrounds, law, social sciences, political sciences, etc. And we have students from all the four corners of India and from UG, from undergraduate programs as well as postgraduate programs.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to be doing is today's lecture. I know I've been busy since morning, lecturing since morning from 10:30. So, and the time given to me is about 45 minutes or an hour. Akshay?
60 minutes.
60. Okay, I'll try to finish before that. Perfect. So, good evening, everyone. I'm going to be speaking today on, in general, disability sensitization. So, introduction to disabilities and this space. I'm so glad I welcome you all. So you are going to be the torchbearers in the coming days after having completed this course. And I strongly believe that with today's lecture, you will have a clear understanding. That's my hope, if we all participate, that you'll have clear understanding of the disability as a social construct. So that will be my objective. And we'll touch upon models of disability. We'll touch upon how it impacts each one of us, and what does the law say about it, how the law defines it. So all around that. So let me just present my screen to all of you. My screen, I think, has perhaps been disabled, but if you want, I can definitely go without screening. I can go definitely without screen sharing. Akshay, is there a need to enable the screen? Is there a possibility?
Akshay, allow him to share the screen.
Yes, sir.
How are you, Subhash? Thank you so much for accepting to come for the lecture. I'm Arman this side.
Hi, Arman. Yes, I could identify your voice. I can identify from hundreds of voices. And I can see Nilesh, my colleague, and I can see many others on the call. So this is such a
you can share the screen, sir.
Right. My apologies on behalf of NCPEDP for the delay to all the participants, and I wish all of you the best of luck. Please, over to you, Subhash. Carry on.
Thank you, Arman. Thank you so much. Thank you. So is my screen visible to everyone?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Okay.
No.
Let me see. I did share. Okay. Is that visible now?
It is visible now. Yes, it is now visible.
Perfect. Thank you. Somehow, ever since these things have started, there are a lot of glitches around. So, fine. Okay. So, we'll be trying to understand disability. We're trying to understand diverse access needs through this presentation today. So I begin with the first screen, and for those who are relying on hearing and sign language, and for those who are relying on not on vision, only on hearing, the screen shows three apples, and I of different kinds, so different colors and different variety. And my question to you is, can you make any connection with the screen or with the picture that is shown on the photo with disability? So 3 of you or 4 of you can respond to this, this question, and then we'll take it forward. Any connection that you can make with the screen with disability? Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes,
Just
sir.
tell your name.
Saksham here. I am from Delhi University. I'm pursuing PhD right now.
Okay.
And my area of research is disability studies itself. So this reminds me of the idea of normativity, where we are talking about how there's a construct of the normal, and we all try to mold ourselves into that idea of the normal. And somewhere around the line, we try to stigmatize people who would have differences. So here we have 3 different apples. 3 are different in themselves, but usually we would try to point out, okay, this is the apple which is the correct apple, and other apples we would not allow them to be considered as normal. Somewhere
Okay.
around those lines.
Thank you, Saksham, for that response. Anybody else?
जी गुड इवनिंग, मेरा नाम केशव है। क्या मैं रिस्पॉन्ड कर सकता हूँ?
Yes, Keshav.
जैसा कि मेरे फेलो पार्टिसिपेंट ने कहा, बिल्कुल मैं भी एग्री कर रहा हूँ कि हमें एक जो सोसाइटल नॉर्म्स के अकॉर्डिंग जो हमें दिखाया जाता है, बताया जाता है, चाहे वो नेचुरल फैक्टर हो, इन्वायरमेंटल फैक्टर हो, तो हम कहीं ना कहीं उसी तरीके से परसीव करते हैं। यहाँ पे 3 एप्पल हैं, बीच वाला जो है वो हम ऑब्वियसली, क्योंकि हम सभी ने एक देखा है कि एप्पल जो है वो जो बीच में है वही हमने देखा और उसी को हम मानते हैं कि ये एप्पल है, अच्छा एप्पल है। तो यहाँ पे मैं उसको रेजोनेट कर पा रहा हूँ डिसेबिलिटी से, कि जो एक गुड का जो पैरामीटर्स है उसके का मतलब उसके रेफरेंस में मैं इस चीज को देख पा रहा हूँ।
Okay, thank you for your response. And the last one, third one.
Hi, this is Mohammed Islam, a PhD scholar from Pondicherry University. I just looked at pictures and find that all are same, all are apple, but they have only different color and different size, nothing else. They are all same.
Oh, thank you very much for that response. Thank you for the 3 wonderful responses, and I think everyone is right, nobody's wrong, and these are 3 different perspectives to it. And the whole message that I wanted to give was, which is wonderfully conveyed by the last respondent, that green apple is more like red apples than being different. And we actually start looking at difference, and that's how we have been brought up, that we put things together in same shape, you know. So we usually say these all look alike, so they are a group. You know, we try to group people based on that. But the simple message is here that as a person with disability is more like persons without disabilities, the green apple is like red apples than being different. And disability is very natural part of human experience, and it is natural. So let's do a little more on disability. And before that, I think I have a self-assessment questions, about 13 of these questions, and maybe 1 or 2 could quickly just say true or false on these questions, and then probably we'll move on. And these questions are basically self-assessment. I'm sure many of you are into this space, so hope all of you would be aware. But since we are starting on at this point, so it'll be good to start with this, because we all come from very different backgrounds and perspectives to disability. So my first question, or first statement rather, is deaf people cannot speak. You just need to say true or false. Okay. So I'm just making few statements, about 13 of them, and then I'm requesting you to make say whether it is true or false as per you.
False.
Deaf people cannot speak.
False.
False.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, deaf people, it depends deaf people can actually pick up speech by speech therapy. And also it depends at what age you became disabled. You may have actually developed a full speech at the time you became deaf. A person with vision impairment can work on a computer.
True.
Yeah, true. Perfect. If given a screen reading software, if given accessibility, a person with vision impairment can work on a computer like anybody else. Perfect. Disabled children should study only in special schools.
False.
False.
Everybody says false. Perfect, because we are talking of inclusion, and we have found that this cost of exclusion has been enormous, in a way that today we are doing classes of sensitization, with classes of orientation to people, because they were never exposed to students with disabilities while they were studying in the schools. And this has created a huge wide gap between and has created almost alienated people, not just people with disabilities, but also people without disabilities from persons with disabilities. So the loss has been on both sides. So perfect. The law talks about inclusion, and inclusive schools is a way forward. Disabled people are much slower, and thus productivity in a workplace goes down.
False.
False. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Persons with disabilities should remain at home, rest, and be cared for.
False.
That's not the objective of inclusion. See, these all questions and these statements that I gathered here have come from my experience of interacting with people and how people behave in a certain situation. So, and I just put that statement out here, which I hear in the society, and whether, so as society as a whole, agree to it. Okay, person with mental illness can work.
True.
True.
True, everybody says true. Perfect.
True.
Given the environmental accommodations, and every person with mental illness can definitely work. Wheelchair users cannot be journalists as it involves traveling.
False.
It's false. Absolutely, it's false. Diverse team members strengthen the team.
True.
True. Right. Disability always occurs at birth.
False.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. All disabled people are wheelchair users.
False.
Right. I very often ask the architects and engineers who, make or give adaptations to the building as to what do they do to make their buildings inclusive. And they tell me that we have created a ramp and we have created an accessible toilet. I ask them further if you have done anything else, and they say nothing. To which my question is, are disabled people, all disabled people, wheelchair users? So this question has come from those interactions with architects and engineers. Thank you for that one. Disabled people have supernatural powers or sixth sense to compensate their disability.
False. False.
Anybody? I heard one true. Is that true or false?
False.
Nobody believes that it is true?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Many people do talk about this, that, oh, he's a person with disability, he's a Divyang, he has supernatural powers, and he can do anything, and he can do much better than me. Look, I can't do this, but he can do this. So that's a kind of also, thought process that goes around in people. So thank you for that answer. No person with disability has supernatural powers. They are as normal, as ordinary like you and me. And they can falter like you and me. And it's only that when the one attribute does not work, the other attribute is made a little more stronger, and other people tend to believe that the person can. It's only skilling off for certain. For example, somebody may be a very good typist, typing at a speed of 80 words per minute. And it doesn't mean the person has supernatural powers. It's only that the person is skilled in undertaking that work. And so many disabled people are skilled in adapting to their disability, and they can definitely be more in comparison to somebody else, they can be more productive with that particular, say ability. 12. You should call people with disabilities as special people or differently abled.
False.
Anybody true there? Because this has been most debated, and I see everywhere people using the words differently able in government, letters and government policies. The word is used in ministries documentation. It is used, and sometimes also a word called challenge is used. But let me tell you, the special, challenged, and differently abled has done more harm than good. And with this special word, we have special education, we have special teachers, we have special siblings, we have special mom, and so much so, even the environment is called specially created environment, or special ramp, or special toilet. So this is something that we really need to check whenever people use. We need to check that this is not really further reinforced. Okay, the last one is, a company cannot ask a person to resign if he or she becomes disabled.
True.
True? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for these answers. And I think this gives me an indication that all of you are very sensitized, already been exposed to the disability as you're shown the interest for this present course. I'm sure you have had some exposure. That's great. So just give you some example. This famous BBC journalist, Frank Gardner, he is a wheelchair user. And on 6 June 2004, while reporting from Al Suwaidi, a district of Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, he was shot 6 times and he got seriously injured by an attack by Al Qaeda. And because of the spinal injury, he's a wheelchair user, but he's actively contributing as a journalist. So wheelchair users can be journalists and can be very successful journalists. We have another example of Assistant Commandant Sandeep Mishra, who lost his eyes. He's a President's Police Medal for Gallantry awardee. And with militants in 2000, he lost his eyesight. And he is, as I said, current commandant, and he's helping and imparting computer training in the BSF Academy with the help of screen reading software. Very, very able gentleman. I had the opportunity to meet him. Few more other examples. I'm sure you all must know Sudha Chandran. She was in news recently for some accessibility issue at the airport. Albert Einstein, we all know he had Asperger syndrome, and he had some stereotypical behavior, used to repeat sentences. But there are people with disabilities who have achieved heights. Stephen Hawking, everyone knows. Okay, so I'm just quickly coming to the disability facts. As per UN, about 10% of population, but the recent figures indicate around 15% of population experiences disability on an everyday around the world. And India, yes, they're the largest minority. The figures that you see are not really very encouraging in the country. These successive censuses in last 2 censuses that we have had, they've indicated they report very low number of persons with disabilities. It's some not even 3%. So from that perspective, we feel that really this is not a correct statement. This requires to be rechecked, to be reconfirmed as to why this low number is coming forward. So let's understand disability, and with few examples, getting into the shoes of people. Let's see, I'm just giving you 2 examples. I'll read them out and probably we'll see where is disability, what is disability, and where is disability. So the first situation that I'm giving you is here. So you are in a city where you do not understand the language and you want to take a train to a particular place. You go to the ticket counter and inquire about the train that go to a particular place, the fare, etc. And the person at the counter neither understands your language nor is cooperating. How do you feel? What comes to your mind? How do you feel? Yes, few responses, 1 or 2 responses, 3
Yeah,
responses.
it's completely like unable to understand. If it is completely unable to understand, then we obviously feel disabled there.
Okay, I see somebody saying out of place. Yes, thank you. And
Alienated, aliens like aliens.
you feel helpless. Yes, Khushi is saying helpless. You
We
feel
feel
alienated.
irritated, yeah, agitated.
You feel agitated. Yes. Does somebody feel also disabled? Yeah, thank you, thank you. So yes, so the overall situation is that you might feel helpless, you might feel frustrated, you might certainly feel incapable of doing things, feel out of place, you feel lost, you have anger, and you feel that suddenly people are watching you, so you become object of unnecessary attention. The self-esteem goes for a toss, the confidence goes low. Look at the impact, and let's look at another situation. Situation 2. Here again, you are at a railway station. There is an information board which clearly states the train numbers, fares, etc., and other required details. And the person at the counter empathizes with you. He takes time to understand your query and guides you in right direction. How do you feel? Feel quite opposite?
Special.
Yeah, you feel happy?
Content. Yes, sir.
Yes, you feel respected?
Yeah.
And
Welcome.
you feel welcome. Great, thank you. One more?
Special.
Sorry?
As a special person.
You feel special person. Okay, I would defer to that, but then if somebody just is helping you the way you want to, you don't need to feel special. I mean, yes, you feel respected, definitely. You feel empowered. That's what perhaps you wanted to mean.
We feel like there's no hope. There's still nice people around.
Yes. You feel you are in a good place. You feel that you belong to this place. Great. So you feel independent. You feel satisfied. You feel respected. You feel supported, empowered. You have a sense of belonging. You're happy. Happiness quotient is up. Your self-confidence is up. And you say, yes, I am a part of this country. Yes. All those feelings inside. And many things we take for granted for persons with disabilities. It is every day they go through these situations. Let's see what changed in these two situations. If we discuss what changed, what did change? You remain same, right? You were the same person in both the situations. What changed? So it's basically
towards us.
The situation and the attitude that change around you, and the result completely changed. So this is the problem, and we are all looking at second scenario to become a reality, because persons with disabilities can lead a life as comfortable, as productive as the non-disabled counterparts without being a burden on society. And it's actually not their impairment, but the disabling environment that makes them disabled or dependent or handicapped, whatever term that you want to use. Okay, so I'm just going to be quickly touching on disability studies. I'm so glad there are a few students from disability studies. So disability studies is an academic discipline that examines and theorizes about social, political, cultural, and economic factors that define disability. And the disability rights movement, scholars, activists, and practitioners, we construct debates around the two distinct model of disability. To understand this disability, which is social and medical model. We'll look at few more models in the models that we study now. There are many models prevalent in the world, and few of them that I just quoted. Most important of them are social and medical. Let's have a look at them. So the main model that I'm just focusing how the disability has evolved, and also it stays in some of the other form around the world, are these three models: charity, medical, and social. So let's look at charity model. Charity, we will also call it tragedy model. And it depicts disabled people or persons with disabilities as victims of circumstance who are deserving of pity. And this, along with medical model, are the models most used by non-disabled people to define and explain disability. Either you make them bechara, or them, oh, he needs some support. So that's model. And this model also believes that disabled people's, and they need some pity, they need some donations so that they can, be rested and cared for. They're good at institutions. So that kind of model, in fact, it all started with this model, perhaps. There's also a moral model of disability, which is very related to the earlier one, and which believes that people are morally responsible for their own disability. ये इनके पुराने जन्मों का कर्म है, or it's a bad action of their parents if it is congenital, or it may be as a result of practicing witchcraft, and this attitude may also be viewed as a religious fundamentalist offshoot of the original animal roots of human beings. So in fact, when humans killed any baby that could not survive on its own in the wild, karma doctrine is also sometimes is connected to it. Then came medical model of disability, which is precisely, it became very popular from during the First and Second World War, when people went to the war and returned wounded and disabled, and the whole effort and whole focus was on fixing them. So medical model of disability is presented as being disabled as a problem. It's a problem of the person. So disabilities has nothing to do with society. It's the problem of the person, directly caused by a disease or a trauma or a health condition, and which therefore requires sustained medical care provided in form of individual treatment by doctors, professionals, rehab professionals. So whole effort and whole focus, as I said, is on management of disability and finding a cure, or individual's adjustment and behavioral change that would lead to an almost cure or effective cure. So in this case, if you see, the medical care is viewed as the main issue. And at the political level, you keep changing healthcare policies, or you keep saying, okay, cover this also in the policy. So in a nutshell, if I say, people with disabilities are looked at as a problem, and they are expected to adapt to the existing environment, attitudes, and social setup. So you are the problem, you're the problem. And then we have the social model of disability, evolved after a great thought. The social model sees the issue of disability as a socially created problem and a matter of full integration of individuals into society. In this, we don't see disability as an attribute of individual, but we look at the complex collection of conditions, many of which are created by a social environment, and therefore the problem of disability can be managed not just by individual action, but by social actions, by collective responsibility of society at large to make modifications and change the environment so that persons with disabilities can participate fully in all areas of life. So this is also indicating that disability is actually a human rights issue of major concern. So as I said, in a nutshell, this model places the fault in existing environment, attitudes, and social setups that disable the individual from participating equally in the society. So it may mean there are badly designed buildings, there are inaccessible transport, and there are attitudinal problems. The building doesn't have lift, and your poverty and low income situation. So all these models are very frequently used, and there are many more models: independence model, human rights model, identity model. There's so many models prevalent in the disability studies. So let's look at some definitions, and definitions do indicate how we have evolved as a society about disability. So this is ADA 1990, which defines disability as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, has a record of such an impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. So it is so different from the Indian condition. India, you need to have a benchmark disability in order to be a person with disability until the last act was in place. Of course, this time we have a person with disability with benchmark, as well as disabilities that are less than 40%, and non-benchmark also considered as persons with disabilities. So there's a huge difference between the two definitions. And the ADA also spoke about that it is regarded as having such an impairment, whether the person has an impairment or not. Even that includes a person with as a disability. You look at DDA of Australia. So if you see, it says it is a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on a person's ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. I'm sure this is an older one. They must have changed it in light of the convention. Let's look at 1995 Act that we had. And it actually said that it defined these about 7 conditions, which included as a part of disability. The convention, UNCRPD, gave a very different definition, very right-based definition, which is saying that disability is an evolving concept, and that disability results from the interaction between persons with impairments and attitudinal and environmental barriers. So the interaction between persons with impairments and attitudinal and environmental barriers that hinders their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. The RPWDA, the Right of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, this has incorporated a large portion of the UN Convention, the definition, and it says a person with disability is defined as a person with long-term, so that's the first condition, physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with barriers hinders his full and effective participation in society equally with others. So you'll see how we have evolved in the definition of disability, that we are focusing more on the environmental removal of environmental barriers, which often act as disabling instruments, than the person's impairment, which is at organ level. So if you look at it in general terms, disability can be broadly categorized as situational and functional. And let's see how situational disability we go through every day, every other day. So just asking you how many times we find ourselves in such situations. So you're talking to a friend and a mobile battery suddenly goes and your phone gets disconnected. Yeah, so that's a situational disability. You can't send an email to a client as the internet is down. And you feel, in such situations, we feel that our hands are tied up, circumstances are stopping you from completing a task, and you suddenly feel disabled. I gave an example earlier of our railway station. So if you want to finish the task, we either need to change the situation or we need to find an alternative way to complete the task. So each time when we go through these situations, we are actually we are facing situational disability. So in simple terms, if I say situational disability is defined as inability to perform a task in a given situation or under certain circumstances. So that's situational disability. Sadly, most people with disabilities do undergo situational disability as well. And we also face every day, but we never realize the pain and the discomfort and the problems of persons with disabilities as a part of community. So some more examples of situational disability. You forgot your spectacles at home, so you can't work in the office or can't study in the college. You're using a calculator, you can't use it because the numbers got rubbed off. You're not able to use them. You can't use the phone in a noisy marketplace. You can't see the information displayed on the computer because there's a glare. You have a bad throat, you can't speak the presentation. You have to climb 10 floors because the lift wasn't working. And you lost an important document as a result of virus. So these are all situations of situational disabilities. So therefore, disability is actually a social construct. Let's have a look at functional disabilities. I'm sure all of you know that disability caused due to some sort of sensory, physical, mental impairments is termed as functional disability. From design perspective, as I'm an accessibility practitioner, and I practice in areas of accessibility, of built environment, and ICT. So from that perspective, if I see, I can categorize them, though we have 21 disabilities in the law, I can categorize them into these major 4. So one is impaired mobility, one is vision, impairments of vision, impairments of hearing and speech, and impairments of, say, learning disabilities, dementia, psychosocial disabilities. So disabilities related to cognition, whether it is mental illness or learning disabilities. So in 4 categories, we can broadly define all functional disabilities. Let's see how it impacts the architecture, how it impacts the designing, how it impacts the general society, so that we can remove those barriers from the society. So with impaired mobility, so this includes people who may be ambulant disabled and who may be non-ambulatory. Non-ambulant will be persons who will be using wheelchairs. I can see on the screen there is a scratch. Could you remove it, please? At 1 or 2 or 3 places. Yes, this is impairing my vision to see the slide. Okay. So what happens as impact of this impairment is you have difficulty negotiating differences in levels. So if there is a step, this 1 step can be a Himalaya for you. We need minimum width. So while designing, if we can say have no level difference unavoidable, can we have ramps or other methods to address those level differences? It would make things easier. It will make things enabling. We require minimum widths. So it impacts the door widths, it impacts entrances, impacts our pathways, it impacts so many other things where we require those minimum widths. Heights of things becomes crucial. If you put something at a higher height, as a person with short stature, I cannot access it. Or a person sitting on a wheelchair, I can't access it. Similarly, the floor finishes have an impact. So if his floor is shiny, it is glary to me, I might slip. If I have a low vision, I might be confused with that glare. If I have a learning disability or a disability that get enhanced by a glare, it might be a problem. So therefore, these are the impacts on the environment of this impairment. So let's see. One more thing that I want to tell, that very often the standards are met, but the intricacies of those standards are usually left out. For example, to open a door, the standards say I need to have 900 millimeter space for my wheelchairs to get in and to go in. I've seen in practice what architects do is they provide 2 leaves doors. And these 2 leaves doors are 500 and 500 millimeters each. And when I'm using with my wheelchair, you imagine that I have to use both my hands to open the doors together. Therefore, my wheelchair is completely dependent on external forces, which are either due to pull of my hand, my wheelchair is moving here and there. So the standard actually requires that one of the leaf of the door should be 900 millimeter, not the entire door. So you could have a door of 1200 millimeter, but if it is 600 mm each leaf, it is not going to help a person with disability or a person with wheelchair user. So these intricacies are so important to understand when we are designing the environment or we are auditing the environment, when we are providing the environment in schools, at workplaces, at different places. And this is what, that's why we always, while conducting trainings, we always ensure that a person with disability is a part of such training. People are undertaking simulation exercises so that they feel for themselves as to what challenges are there when you actually get into those shoes, So simulations of different disabilities actually sometimes do reveal the challenges, but on the other extreme, it also sometimes scares such people. That has been my experience, that they feel, oh my God, this is a huge problem. I'm so scared. So we do not want to scare people. We want to tell them, yes, this is natural experience of people. And this is how we can remove these challenges, these barriers. Okay, one more. Let's see persons with vision impairment, how it impacts the architecture. So people may be blind or partially sighted. Not all people with vision impairments are blind. So the challenges or the impact on the environment would be difficulty in orientation. So I may need additional cues for orientation in the environment, identifying hazards in the environment, and gaining visual information from the environment. So how do I incorporate signages that are not just visual? How do I incorporate signages which may have also a tactile surface, which may also have an audio surface or audio input? So multi-sensory input stimuli can help enable a better orientation. Some example of vision. See, this is viewed with a good vision. The photograph shows a fruit market situation where I'm able to see all different kind of colors of fruits. And when you have a central visual field loss, it reduces color discrimination and ability to read signs and to see a person's face. You see in the center, there's a black. I can't see. I can see a hazy picture on the sides. It's another vision, this part of vision disability is, we call it tunnel vision, a loss of peripheral visual field which restricts depth perception and increasing effort in identifying the position of features. So how we as architects or designers or as people who are providing services can ensure that a person with loss of peripheral visual field is able to access the environment? Simple examples like providing color contrasting tape on the edges of staircases can be a great help in such cases. So there's little examples. This is another example of general loss of visual field, where whole visual field there is a difficulty. Some few more examples. Okay, so coming to persons with hearing impairment. So people who may be deaf or hard of hearing, the impact is they may have difficulty in communicating. So how can we make communication easier? It can be through sign presentation. It can be through a lot of signages, right signages. Then there's difficulty in comprehending sounds. So can we have an alternate to sound? Can be visual output, which comprehend. To this. So that is, and the last category of disabilities is cognitive disabilities. The challenge on the environment is we find it difficult to find a way, get confused on cluttered environments, difficulty in gaining complex information, and you may forget things and need to be reminded of the cues. In fact, I can tell you there is so much of research has already happened in, we have standards on dementia-friendly cities. We have standards on how to make cities safer, how to make house safer, how to make buildings safer for different disabilities, and how to provide uncluttered environment in public spaces, how to make it simple, and you have constant cues, constant signages to remind, and less of complexity in the environment. So this is all environmental thing. I'm sure the designers can take cues from these different elements and barriers. Okay. So quickly jumping over, I have, it's 7:30. So it's about 15-20 minutes more. Barriers. I mean, for a longest time, there has been debate as to what is barrier. And many people would not consider absence of ramp as a barrier, or absence of a signage as a barrier. So therefore, the RPWD Act defines for the first time what is barrier. This was a long felt need. In the last law, we had this issue. So finally, we had several debates around defining the word barrier. So barrier is any factor that including communicational, cultural, economic, environmental, institutional, political, social, attitudinal, or structural factors which hamper the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities in society. So barrier has been earlier, it wasn't really very clear, very vague, but this time it is so structured that not just structural barriers, but in fact, any factor has been included in this, which might create a barrier for persons with disabilities. We can also divide these barriers when we talk of the organization, we talk of institutions, society in general. We can talk of these barriers in four categories. So one is attitudinal, one is infrastructural, information communication barriers, and administrative. So quickly, if I just touch upon this, attitudes at workplaces, because of lack of awareness, because of lack of sensitization, there is stereotypical thinking about persons with disabilities and certain attitudes which may have demeaning effect sometimes, and sometimes patronizing people with disabilities. Usually disbelieving that he can do a certain work, and usually giving them a low skill work, that they can't do things, they can't do this, and you're setting different job standards, sometimes even lower, which tend to alienate co-workers. So attitudinal barriers are huge barriers that we need to simultaneously tackle. If we have no structural barriers, attitudinal barriers can actually be more difficult to negotiate. Second is infrastructural barriers. Yes, build structures and transportation. It does prevent people from participating in society, we know. So simple things as steps at the entrances with signs without tactile characters, or inaccessible parking, inaccessible washrooms can be huge barriers for people to step out and attend their offices, workspaces, and education. Information and communication barriers, they are also very surmountable barriers. Lack of signages, lack of sign language interpretation. It's a huge barrier. The deaf person doesn't know what's happening around, completely not aware. Lack of subtitles in television programs, movies, emergency alarm without visual clues. The bell has rung, everybody is running out, but the deaf person is stuck inside, doesn't know that there's an emergency alarm. Inaccessible formats of websites, you can't access them, they're not tagged properly, they are not complying with the WCAG norms. Information material, study material like books, PDFs, pamphlets, they are in format, picture format, image format, blind people can't access them. These are various information communication barriers. Then comes administrative barriers. Typically, the policies have not been updated. Despite the law being there, the policy still remains of the archaic times, of 50s, of 40s. So they also need to undergo changes. We still have policies where you say we measure the medical fitness and we often relegate disability to a low level of medical fitness, which is incorrect. We have a law in place, but we haven't changed at many places the administrative policies. They need to be changed. We don't have sufficient resources allocated for diversity for reasonable accommodation. And these things are at many places non-existing. So we consider them as barriers, administrative barriers, which needs to be overcome, which needs to be removed so that people can have equal opportunities to participate. So I think my time is coming to an end, but definitely I can close with a few more slides that all of us need an inclusive environment and accessibility. And I very often use this slide for all my training programs, which is accessibility is not just an issue for persons with disabilities. It actually makes participation easier and more effective for everyone. And this includes young children, elderly people, people who speak different languages, people who have different learning styles, people who have hidden impairments, diabetes, epilepsy. You can't see them, right? You can't see them, but they too tend to benefit. People with temporary ailments, I have fever, I met with an accident, I had an injury, I'm feeling very weak today. So accessibility does help me. Pregnant women, women with toddlers, people carrying heavy luggage. You'll see on the first slide, I haven't have any person with functional with disability. Here they are on the second slide. And accessibility also benefit people who have difficulty in seeing, hearing, moving, learning, or speaking, whether it is mild or severe, whether they call themselves as disabled or not, whether or not their impairment is obvious, whether it is visible or not. So accessibility helps everyone. I'm sure you all know there are 21 disabilities under the law. So I'm not going to go in details. I'm sure you can see up there. I will stop here and maybe I can take some questions for today. Is that okay? Am I within my time or I've crossed my time, Akshay?
No, sir, you're well within your time, and I think we can go for the question answer sessions if there are any doubts from the students.
Yes, please.
Any student who has any doubt can, I think, ask now directly to sir.
Hello. Hello.
Identify
listening?
yourself, please. Identify yourself.
Hello. Hello. I am audible.
Yes, you are
Yes,
audible.
sir.
Please speak. Please tell your name and go ahead.
So I'm Sandeep Kumar Pal from New Delhi, Government Boys Senior Secondary School. Actually, my question is, you believe the terminology of Divyang is right or wrong?
Thank you for that question. I think the best people to answer is persons with disabilities themselves, what they want to be called. As a student of disability studies or practicing in this space, I would say I would prefer the term which is person first approach, which is persons with disabilities. I would not want to be, I personally would not use any term which is condescending or which is patronizing or which is putting you at a special pedestal. I would treat you as ordinary as possible, like me, and not alienating you by labeling you as something special. So that's my take on it. But definitely it is for persons with disabilities to decide, and it is for them to say yes or no as to what they want to be called. And I can give you one example on this. There was a time when Gandhiji gave a certain section of society a name called Harijan. It may have been with very good intentions, that these are also people of God, so they are also Harijan. And over a period of time, we see the people from that category or who were in that category, they refuse to be addressed by that name. Because over a period of time, the attitude do not change. You keep giving new names. It doesn't really help. So they today, the languages they prefer calling themselves as Dalit. And Dalit is acceptable word as of today. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Hello.
Good evening. Could you be a little loud?
Yeah, good evening, sir. This is Dr. Pankaj Subhash from JNU. I'm working as a assistant.
Sir, please be a little louder.
Yeah. So this is Dr. Pankaj Subhash from JNU. Sir, you have spoken about the accessibility and associated barriers. But once you will go through the debate on the accessibility norm, what they are saying, without identifying spatial structure, we cannot make inclusive structure. So could you address the debate and the methodology that they are adopting in order to make system or the public infrastructure inclusive? Because they are saying without identifying spatial structure, we cannot make our system inclusive. Could you have some opinion of that?
I would request if you could just type out your question on the chat box, because I seem to have missed a large part of it. And if interpreters has heard, maybe it will be helpful if you could interpret that for me, so that I could, because I really couldn't hear that. I could hear only a part of it.
Subhash, there's a hi, by the way. There's a crackle on his line, and as you say correctly, there's some audio issue. So maybe he should type it. You can read the question out for me as well.
Yes.
Because from what I understood, is that you have to identify the structure before they can find a plan to make a particular structure accessible. And structures cannot just be made unilaterally accessible. The planning cannot be done for that. Something like that, what I understood. Not clear.
Okay. So I don't know whether I've understood that correctly or in right context, but perhaps you are looking at somebody is insisting that you first do an audit of the building and then probably address those inaccessibility issues. Is that what you're saying?
So what maybe if you write it in the chat box properly, you can read the questions and then I can get a clearer picture. And
Perfect.
I can interpret better. But that would be a policy. There's some audio issue in this program.
Yeah. Thank you, Arun, for helping me out with that. I'll help the gentleman to just type out on the side so that I can look at that. Yes.
Yeah, sir. Now it is audible, sir.
Yeah, it is better. Yes.
Yeah. So, sir, again, I am Pankaj speaking from JNU. And sir, during your lecture, what I have realized that you have an objection calling special, right?
Okay.
So in order to make public building or public infrastructure accessible, what the architects are saying that without identifying special character or special plan or special like ramp and all, we cannot make our system inclusive. So could you have some suggestion for them that without saying special, they can make their system accessible and the perfectly usable for all?
Okay, thank you. Now I got your question. Okay. Thank you, Pankaj Kushwaha, for that question. And this largely brings us back to the lack of awareness and sensitization among professionals who are dealing with structures, who are creating structures, who are renovating the built environment. For them, it is still a special thing because a building is already done. And they have traditionally been taught to design for a person who's like 6 feet tall, a male, who has 2 hands, who can see, who can hear, who can run, hop, jump, so they have traditionally been designing for non-disabled people. And I say non-disabled man, not even women. So had they actually included that diversity, the design would have been much different. And the answer lies here is perhaps they need to look at universal design, which is the future. The UN Convention talks about it. The rights of persons with disabilities talks about it, where we are saying no special design. We are talking of universal design. Every building should be able to be accessed by maximum diversity of people, irrespective of his stature or his abilities or his disabilities. So that's the way forward. And I think the architects do need to get exposed to this.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Do we have any more questions?
I have a question.
Please go.
Right. Hello, my name is Rionia. I'm a student, I'm a third-year law student at Christ. And my question is, several families who say conceive a child with obvious visible disabilities, they try to have a second child immediately after, despite probably not being of sufficient socio-economic circumstances to support 2 or more children that they have. Not to mention that the child with disabilities have their own medical needs. But such parents or families claim that it is their right to have a quote normal child. Do you think that making available certain incentives to care for the children with special needs, such as free accessibility aids or education, could perhaps aid in dismissing this mentality?
Thank you for that question. So I think in larger context, if we see how society views that disability is visible in how we perceive and how we look at the future of the child with disability. Usually when a child is born in the family, they think, oh, ye hamara future dekhega, hamare budhape mein hamara sahara banega. That kind of attitudes do exist in the community. And so therefore everybody is always wanting that the person should be fully healthy, fully accessible, fully healthy, and disabilities is considered as something which is lacking, even in today's context. And when a child with disability is this is something which is very individual choice of the families. As persons with disabilities or as advocates in the area of disability, we are more focused on, we can't go to, every individual's, sensitize them to X. Of course, when the child is in, the whole process is already there. But you can't say that we provide them incentives for that reason that he does not have a second child. No, this is completely his own choice. We as society can't do much about it. But yes, we can make our society a better place, an accessible place, where everybody, irrespective of disability, has opportunity to grow and to realize the potential. That's what I think we as disability advocates, we can say. But because those decisions to have a child or not, or to have a child immediately thereafter, perhaps is very individual choice of a family or of a person.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll stop here with the question answer sessions. If anyone else has any more questions, then you guys can always write to us and we'll share the questions with sir. And anyway, sir will be with us for a couple of more lectures in the coming time. So you can always ask your questions at that point. So once again, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on a very short notice. And I'm really happy that you are here today. This is the first of a lecture certificate course that NCPEDP has started with in collaboration with some college, Kirudimal College. And we are really happy that you are here to deliver the first of its lecture today. So thank you again and hope to be with you for more lectures in coming time.
Thank you so much, Akshay. I see there were a few questions that are unanswered in the chat box, but then I can have those questions definitely for subsequent sessions. Kindly keep your questions. You can pose them to me in our next sessions. I'll have more time for question answer session. I'll be speaking less and hearing more in the subsequent sessions.
Definitely,
but I'm delighted to, thank you so much once again. And I'm delighted to see Arun after a long time. Welcome back to India, Arun. It's lovely to see you signing for us. You have been away from this space, and I know that you were doing a lot of wildlife photography and you were doing all your hobbies. Lovely to see you back.
It's been a long time, Subhash. Yes.
Yeah.
7 years out of the field and back in with a bang.
Okay.
Sorry for everybody, I just speak.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. So we'll see each other in the next session, because I'm constantly traveling, and then but then I will keep joining you, of course. Because of me, time may be a little extended, not at 4:30, but I'm requesting for an evening time so that at least I'm back from my work and I can be speaking to all of you. Thank you once again. Thank you once again.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, Subhash, this is Rajshekar from Hyderabad.
Yes.
Rajshekar from Hyderabad.
Yes, Rajshekar ji, bataiye.
Yeah. So going back to the question, you are discussing about the labels on disability, the different names and labels, etc. If at all it is not special education, what's the other word that you would like to suggest?
For me, just education. For me, just education for everyone. We could call it inclusive education if at all. That's a new name being given. But eventually, for me, just education. Education meeting the specific needs of people. Every child has a specific need. I don't call it special. I may call it specific to every child. And we have, in fact, we were doing some guidelines very recently for our Institute of Higher Education, and we insisted that we don't use the word special. We say specific need of a certain disability.
Another thing that you said that these words have done more harm than good. So can you explain, can you just substantiate that?
See, when I say more harm, as in you start labeling every sector, you start labeling the moment you say special, the more harm is the mainstream teachers have washed their hands off these special people. They say for these special people, there are special educators, they are none of our business. I see that is a larger harm.
The word differently able or differently challenged, whatever. I think that's the point I'm making. When you said that it had done more harm, I would like to know if you can substantiate some evidence or research or things like that.
No, these are not, these are experiences that I've had in this sector, and this is also coming from persons with disabilities that they have faced, that by labeling them as special, as differently able, they have been alienated from the mainstream. And that is the harm that people with disabilities have faced. And also non-disabled people have been devoid of that opportunity of mingling and commingling with students with disabilities or persons with disabilities.
And this is an endless task. It's an endless and thankless job, dabbling with labels all the time.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah.
A little louder, please.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Right. So thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Students
you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Students are requested to stay back for 15 minutes for the orientation, and then we all can leave. Right. So I'll just put a face to my name first so that you guys are you guys know who is there behind this voice. Hi everyone. Thank you all for coming. Firstly, I'm sorry for the glitches that happened today. The class was delayed for 15 minutes. We hope that it doesn't happen again, but it's technology and sometimes it gets stuck. Can't help it. But anyway, we'll try our level best to make sure that your time and our times are saved and it's smooth for us to run the certificate course. I just wanted to run through a few important points for the course, which will help you all in, attending the lectures and making it easier for how it's going to work. So as you all know, the theme of the course is an introduction to disability research, a legal and social studies perspective. Why this theme? For one very specific reason, because I am a law student. I've done my law and now I'm working in an advocacy organization. So how I have seen law, the law is, just a second guys, I'm sorry. Yeah. So how I have seen it is that it is important for us to understand the laws, the entitlements that a person with disability has, and how we can attach that thing with the academics part. So, then you'll know how you can work or research or develop your understanding in disability studies with respect to the laws and guidelines that we have in place. So that's why this theme. The certificate course will not just include legal perspectives, it will also include research and writing skills for you all, because most of us are from undergraduate programs and some of us are pursuing postgraduate currently. So it is important for us to understand how we write, how we do research, and how do we collect information and analyze the same. So that's why we also have dedicated lectures for research and writing skills. And about the resource persons, I'll keep sharing a weekly plan with you all. You will receive it on WhatsApp and email, where you'll have details of the lectures that are scheduled in that week, along with the resource persons and the links and the timings too. But again, in case if there is any change in the timing, I will make sure that you are informed of the same at least 24 hours prior to the lecture. Next thing is the periodic test. So there are 20 lectures through that will be covered in a period of 9 weeks. These 20 lectures will also have 5 periodic tests. What are these periodic tests? These are basically your internal assessments, which will be MCQs. and each periodic test will be of 20 marks. So in total, 5 periodic tests for 100 marks. These periodic tests will be used for your final marking and the evaluation of your performance after the certificate course is over. The second component of your evaluation will be assignment, which will be of 15 marks. Right now, we have not decided what topics will be there and how you guys will be doing it. We can form groups for you all where you guys can work in a group of 5, choose a topic of your choice and present an article or a small thesis or a paper on that topic. Third component will be a final exam, again of 15 marks. It will contain subjective and objective questions both. More details about these evaluations will be shared in a couple of weeks with you all. While we are halfway through the certificate course, you will have a better idea of assignment and final exam and everything. So final exam will be probably on 22nd of April, which is after 10 days after the last class is over. And we will also fix a date of submission for the assignment, which will be informed to you all. And you guys will be given an ample amount of time to write your assignments and submit it to us in a soft copy format. Next thing is the attendance. So I understand that we all have our classes, we all have other work that we have to do, and I completely understand that. But for you all to be eligible to write exam, appear for exams and submit assignments, it is mandatory for you all to have 75% of attendance. We will be marking attendance of each lecture. You guys will not be told when we are marking the attendance, but we will take the attendance while the lecture is on, and that will be recorded, and we will ensure that only those who have 75% or more than that of attendance are appearing for the exams or assignments. And if you are not sitting for the exam or submitting the assignment, you guys will not be provided the certificate of completion of the course. So I request you all to please ensure that you guys are attending lectures. Next thing, all these periodic tests will happen on Mondays. As you guys have already received the course schedule, all the tests are scheduled on Mondays. So what we will do is the Friday before that Monday, we will upload all the recorded lectures on our YouTube channels and share the links with you so that you can prepare from those recorded lectures. And I also suggest that you guys take notes during the lectures, and the PPTs that resource persons are presenting, we will upload those PPTs along with those lectures on the YouTube channels directly. We will share the links of all that with you all. So this is small brief, and all information will be communicated to you via email and WhatsApp. We have already created a WhatsApp group. If there is anyone who has not been a part of that group, then please let us know. We can add you, you can write us. Preeti ma'am, you're saying something?
We say you had not added us.
Oh, sorry, I'll add you. Right.
Because I'm just asking, because if there is any deaf person and it's required,
yes,
any help,
will.
so at least
Yes,
will be there.
I'll do that. I'll add you.
Thank you.
Right. So this is from my side. If there is any doubt, you can put it on WhatsApp group or email it to us. You have the email IDs with you. And yeah, I think I have covered most of it. One more thing. We are a group of 69 students, right? We are 69 candidates who are appearing for the certificate course, and we will pick 2 group representatives or group coordinators from amongst you people for easier communication, and we will intimate you once we have chosen someone from the group, and we'll let you know. So these 2 people can take care of the attendance and also the smooth functioning of the lectures. So any question, please put it on the WhatsApp group or email it to us. We will respond to it. So Mishwar sir, if you're there, do you want to add anything? Someshwar sir? Yes, reading materials. I will share a list of reading materials with you all, like the acts, the policies, the reports, that you all can refer, that you all can download from internet, or I'll share a downloaded copy with you all. You guys can refer to that reading material. Apart from that, whatever modules or PPTs that the resource persons are using, we will share that with you all. And for audio issues, I think the problem has been with the internet bandwidth. So please try to be in a place where internet is a little better for you all. Thank you. With this, we conclude the first lecture. I'll share the details of next lecture by tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Arun sir.